Hello everyone and welcome back to 3 Plays Minecraft. We're over here at the honey farm which we built in the last episode, and I'm really pleased with how this has turned out aesthetically. Functionally it's a little slow, but it does give us some honey. We get the honey bottles here and we get the honeycombs. As you can see, we now also have a bridge connection, so I spent a little time here and connected the two sides of the river together. Yeah, we can now walk across this bridge to get to whatever is going to be on this side. I was going to develop this area further and maybe put some sort of skylight dome here, because without the torches, it's a little dark in this area, and I'm not sure how to light such a big space without doing lampposts or... I mean, there's options, but I really want to have some sort of skylight here. However, for the moment, I've chosen to hold off on developing this area further, since it's going to be heavily influenced by what we decide to put on this side of the river, and then also how we choose to join the different sections of our base together, which are still yet to be built. I honestly don't know how this is going to plan out, like the expansion of this cave. I don't have anything pre-planned. But yeah, I spent a bit of time over here at the bees, and I implemented this back room, which gives us access to the dispensers, which we can fill with glass bottles. So, using the sand, I did fill this up some of the way, and I chose to remove the minecart from here, since there's not really any need to overcomplicate it, and this is just meant for like a trickle of honey while we work on the base. Eventually, we might build a crazy productive bee farms elsewhere in the end or in the nether later on in the world, but for now, like 4 double chests worth and 4 hives should give us enough honey. I mean, all the dispensers are full, plus the hopper, plus what we have in these chests. So yeah, this is an easy access for me to come and refill these every now and then, since yeah, when you craft the honey bottles into honey blocks, you do get the glass bottles back, so these we can easily recycle and put back into the double chests up there. Over on the honeycomb side, I did also implement this door back here. Oh yeah, and this is in a slime chunk somewhere, I think. I've seen a couple of slime while I was building this area. I don't know if I want those guys around. But yeah, we have this area here which we can access this double chest. And this is for iron ingots, so we use shears here in the dispensers above to farm the honeycomb blocks, right? So we can give iron to this double chest, which feeds into a row of hoppers. And then, conveniently, since we're using the observer method to activate the dispensers up here, whenever the beehive changes state, so whenever the honey level changes, we get an observer output. That goes to the note block, and then, conveniently, since this one points up, we can power a crafter directly, and the crafter is locked to the shears recipe, right? So 2 iron ingots equals the shears. And the crafter will receive a redstone signal when the beehive updates, and then that outputs the shears into a hopper, into another hopper, and then into the dispenser here. So that keeps it full of shears and gives us a massive buffer here. The shears last quite a long time. I forgot to pick up some iron. I was just up at our iron farm up there. But yeah, the shears last a long time, and that should give us plenty of honey for building. I implemented some honey up there, which I think works quite well, the honeycomb blocks. And then we also got some honey above here as well. And then, of course, we can also use the honeycomb for copper oxidization, or to prevent the oxidization of copper, right? So you can use the axe on copper to revert the stages. I think there's 4 stages, right? That's the first stage. This is the last stage. And then you can use honeycomb to lock it to that specific stage. I'm undecided right now if I want to leave some of it in this weathered state, just to give us some extra texture around the place. I don't know, it's kind of grown on me, this fully oxidized version, so I may or may not make use of this. I guess I'll just leave it all for now, and maybe I'll decide later on. I did also change the floor here, which you might have spotted. There used to be a bunch of moss on the floor, which was really bothering me every time I came in here, and I cleaned it up a little bit. I'm still not sure about this, so it might change again. But this time we do have a skylight. It is nighttime right now, but this was very, very dark without the skylight, so I just punched a hole through the through the cave up there. But eventually I do want to do something about the ceiling up here and do some sort of fully terraformed area, or at least encase it somehow. So the plan for today is to finally implement our bulk storage system here and expand our storage room. So I want to have a place to store full shulker boxes full of materials, so items like cobblestone, items like stone, sandstone, andesite, granite, diorite, dirt, deep slate, all of the materials that we'll likely have many full shulker boxes worth of in the future. We want to have a convenient and accessible location to store those, and I think it's going to be on this side of the room. Like I've mentioned previously, it would be super easy to do on, well, not super easy, but easier to do on this side of the room, since I want the flow of items to be input chest, or like our inventory, and then input chest, and then hit the mixed storage here. So these are meant for mixed boxes, ideally. And then it's going to go to the overflow chest, which we'll end up removing today. So this will be an empty nook, which we can put probably more workstations in, I'm thinking. I didn't really account for these, but we'll need to... I want to have some easy location for multiple ender chests. Maybe we can have some sort of potion dispenser here, or maybe something for elytra rockets. But yeah, the items are going to go from input and then into the mixed boxes, and then if it can't be stored there, or if those are full, then we want it to go to overflow, which is then going to have to be rerouted this direction, because I want the overflow in this side of the cave. And then, yeah, this is going to hold all of our mixed boxes. I don't know how this is going to turn out yet. I think I have a general idea. I want to make use of this sort of circle shape room. I really want to avoid... like I said in the previous episode, I really want to avoid grid-like systems here, or like grid building. So like straight lines, I want to try to minimize as much as possible. That's why we have this sort of Von Sway staircase here, which kind of slants off to the side. It's a little bit quirky, a little bit weird, and I want to try and stick with that where we can. It's very difficult to build like this because I'm not used to it. My brain is very logical, very straightforward, and I'm trying to curve it around a little bit here. I'm trying to get out of my comfort zone when it comes to the building side of things. So this is a little too straight for me, these walls, so this will probably get changed. But again, this was just quickly thrown together when I was building this area. So yeah, that is the plan for today. We are going to be doing a lot more building, a lot more redstone, lots of fun things planned for today. I don't know how it's all going to turn out, but I think we should be prepared. I have been doing some material collection between episodes. I took our beacon back over to the desert to gather some sand and then also terracotta. I made use of the cobblestone farm, so we need some dispensers and observers, and we were out of cobblestone almost completely since we used Silk Touch. So I made use of the cobblestone farm and used that while I farmed some trees as well. Mostly all the stuff we use for building, so dark oak, junglewood, birchwood. I think that's just about all I gathered. Spruce wood as well. I don't know if it's all going to get finished today, but I really want to focus on the functionality first of all. I don't want a situation like what we had with this one where it didn't work for a long time. And so we're going to focus on the redstone first, and then we'll build out the aesthetic side of things. So to try and avoid a situation where things don't work again, we're going to come into our redstone test world and find out how all the systems are going to work. And for the bulk storage, we're going to use a design or a slice by Azuma Void. So full credit to him. I'll make sure to link his video in the description. Additionally, the shulker box system is now available as a schematic on Discord, which you can find in its barebone format in front of us here. So you can implement it in your own world and dress it up however you like. You can find this schematic along with all other resources and world downloads from every other series on this channel. So definitely check out the Discord if you're not already in there. So yeah, back to the slice. We're going to use this since it works perfectly. It's exactly what we're looking for. So the idea here is that we have a hopper line over the top here. So items from overflow will flow over this hopper, and we'll have an item filter here, which is a really interesting way to do an item filter. It's slightly different to the one that we saw in episode 2. It functions the same way, but instead it implements a dropper and a hopper just to fulfill the space requirements that we need for this slice. So the way it works is we have our filter items here. It's actually supposed to be like this. And then you can put in your filter in this slot. And what happens is the comparator reads the hopper like normal. And then when it reaches signal strength 3, it will power the dropper, passing a single item into the hopper, and then it locks it. And then, yeah, the comparator passes that redstone comparator signal from the dropper, since it now has the item, and locks the hopper below, until you're left with the 41 items in the filter. And then whenever the signal strength reaches 3 again, so you have over 41, it will power the dropper, send the item back in, and then, yeah, allow more items to flow through. The items are then going to flow down to this hopper, where it's going to start to fill some shulker boxes. So we can interface with the system this way, where we have 3 shulker boxes. We can technically make this taller if we want to, I think. So we can have more shulker boxes at the front here, which is accessible for a single type of item. And then once those are full, let's say this is full, there's nowhere for the items to go. It will then start to fill this barrel, which then fills this barrel and is put into a shulker loader. And Azuma's design was first inspired by Mizuma Games, which I'll also link in the description. So his video will also be there. I believe that's where the shulker loader came from. So the shulker loader works by... This is just a many put together here. But the shulker loader works by filling the barrel into the shulker. When the shulker is full, we update this comparator to give a signal strength of 15. So this redstone dust here is power 15 and then 14. Whenever this updates to 15, power level 15, because of the full shulker box, it updates this observer, which updates this observer, powers the hopper to lock it, which allows this observer to read the block update from the hopper, sending a signal to the piston to push the observer into the block where the shulker is, breaking it. The shulker will land in the hopper and flow to this chest in front here, where we can, store, I guess, a double chest worth of full shulker boxes of items, along with the 3 that is full on the front interface panel. And then because the piston sends the observer over top of this one, of the dropper, it powers the dropper, which will be filled with shulker boxes, and that will dispense a fresh one up here. So we can see it in action. If I take almost everything out of the shulker box and then place it here, right? As soon as we give another 32 items in here, the redstone dust should update and the shulker box should be broken. There we go. And then a fresh one is placed and it should end up in here, which is exactly what we want. So I hope you kind of understand how this works. It's actually a really genius design, and it's tileable as well, which is ideal. I don't know if we're going to fully tile it, but now we have to decide how many slices we want. So I've started to put together a list of materials which we will probably want to have unique slices for. So definitely stone, definitely cobblestone, stone brick, gravel, tuff, cobbled deep slate, regular deep slate, cobbled deep slate, basalt, black stone. I'm not sure about obsidian. Do we want to have full boxes worth of obsidian? That might get removed. So that one's a maybe. Definitely these 3. Definitely sand, definitely sandstone. This one's it's really tough to decide on this. Clay, you do get from Lush Caves now, so I don't know if we're going to end up with full boxes. So again, this is a maybe. Endstone, I think so. Netherrack for sure. Nether brick for sure. Terracotta also most likely. But then this is where I'm kind of feeling stuck, and I realized that storage in this game is a massive rabbit hole. And like, it's kind of up to us how deep we decide to jump in. Because, what about all the wood types? I mean, spruce logs, we're going to have a lot of those, right? Definitely more than the mixed boxes. Like, if we have a mixed box in our mixed shulker box loader here. So, for example, a spruce box would maybe look something like this. I'm still going to have to go through and organize every single shulker box, which I want to do this episode as well. But then, we're definitely going to have more than a stack or maybe even 2 or 4 stacks of spruce logs that we might choose to allocate to a mixed spruce box like this one in our original storage room. Oh man, this is going to be a massive project, but honestly it's exciting. I'm so looking forward to digging in here. I don't necessarily mean that literally. We have a lot of digging to do here. Now that I realize the scope of this project, there's a lot of space to clear out and a lot of things to account for. So we have Haste 2 here, we have the beacon set up. I'm just going to start some digging and I'll come back to you with a bit of a progress update. I spent a bunch more time in the redstone test world to get all my ducks in a row and determine which blocks would make the cut for the shulker box loaders. So I had a rough estimate as to the space requirements here. And isn't it funny that you think, oh, we have all this wide open space in a huge cave, and then you spend ages digging? I suppose it is the name of this game. Anyways, it was a relaxing time to dig a big hole, in fairness. And so with the space cleared out, I began to collect all the components and the materials required. As it turns out, I vastly underestimated how much wood is required for this. I think it's going to turn into around 1,000 hoppers extra or so, plus all the wood for decoration and aesthetics. I really want to stick with a wood heavy theme here, continuing with our nature colours, so we're using a lot of browns and reds and yellows, and yeah, stuff you find in nature, and then of course the copper as well. So I really want to continue with that, but that does mean using the wood farm for quite a while. I'm farming some jungle trees manually. I found that the jungle trees don't give you that many saplings. I mean, that is the case anyway in Minecraft, but when you're using the automated tree farm that we have, we don't get a ton of saplings back from the jungle trees. So I find it's easier just to cut those down as 2x2s with the axe manually. And same for the dark oak, you can easily get a bunch of dark oak that way. We also need things like barrels and composters, and those I ended up crafting from bamboo, which we get from the bamboo farm. I found that we were a little short on quartz, but not by much, so quickly hopping to the nether and using Fortune 3 resolved that. Most of the other things though we had on hand, as I've been quite diligent in material collection, so it's just a case of getting it all crafted. And boy is it satisfying to craft a whole bunch of comparators and repeaters and observers all at once, and pistons, all that sort of stuff. It feels good to have all these materials, but we're just about to get to use them up. So yeah, with the materials crafted, I began to organise the layout for grouping the box loaders, and I built as much as I could. How did it take me this long to realise? I don't know. I don't know. What am I talking about exactly? The item filter. In episode 2, I acted like I knew what was going on with these, and most of the information in there, to be fair, was still correct, but yeah, then I asked, oh, why were they all broken, right? Because the filters were misconfigured. Yeah, I did say this was not going to be a tutorial series in episode 1, and that is wow, yeah, that is definitely the case. So the item filter, when you build them next to each other, they do interfere if you have them set up in the way we did with the 41 item filters, or the dummy items in this configuration. You actually want the 41 where on the item you want to filter, at least when you have this specific configuration. Because whenever the stack filled up, right, on it, some of these, whenever we had like a full stack of apples, it would start to drop the filter items into the hopper below, and that was messing with stuff, and then you end up with the empty whitelist, and it all makes total sense. How did I not realize that before? I don't know. I really don't know. So you guys probably roasted me in the comments for that, which is absolutely understandable. But to be fair, I haven't seen the comments yet, since it was only very recently I decided to make this series public. I'm quite glad I did, because I'm enjoying recording again a lot. It's so fun. But it also does open you up to public scrutiny, which is fair enough. So yeah, this is our current progress here on the new part of our storage room. As always, when you begin a project, you come to the realization of a few things. The item filter was one of them. The other is that I'm not sure we can continue using the carpet rule that I mentioned in episode 1, the stackable shulker boxes, because we don't have very many shulker boxes right now. And in fact, I did just empty a bunch of them. Because of all the building blocks that we've accumulated, or like things like stone, which will eventually go in that system up there, these all used to be stored in shulker boxes, and I am keeping all of this, by the way. I have like a collector's mentality. I love to collect this stuff, so I really want to hold on to this and not void it, right? But yeah, it's all dropped here so that we could free up shulker boxes. But yeah, I might revert the carpet rule for stackable shulker boxes, because that means that there's going to be so many cached inside these hoppers here, because there's like 3 hoppers. This is the feeder line for the dispensers to dispense the empty shulker boxes in the loader. And if you stack them or allow stackable shulker boxes, there's going to be 9 stacks of shulker boxes in this dispenser. And that's going to be very difficult for us to yeah, like round robin between all the different loaders in this build. And I didn't consider that when I enabled it. And to be fair, we haven't really made use of stackable shulker boxes. I don't really know why I chose that carpet rule, but that's pretty much one of the only ones I'm using. Also, you might have spotted that I've put composters on a lot of the hoppers, on top of a lot of the hoppers over here as well. And that is just to reduce lag, because when you block a hopper, it doesn't have to check as often for what's above it when the game ticks, and it can reduce your MSPT. So right now we're at 5.1 MSPT, which is not so bad. But the more hoppers you have exposed to nothing, or like with containers above them, they have to check every game tick if they can pull an item into their inventory or not. And the composter is apparently the most lag efficient method to reduce the hopper's impact on the game. So yeah, there's a little bit still left to build here. I don't think we're going to have all the resources for this though. I started to build this left hand side as well. And I think I'm just going to build 3 of them. Or maybe not even, because this is like what, 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18. So it's 36 in total. 36 box loaders in total here for mass storage items, which I don't think we'll be able to fill yet. And I don't have a slot assigned for every single one of these. So I think for the moment, we're just going to start with one side, and then we will build the other side as needed. But also, I realized that while I was trying to organize all the items in the creative world, as for what is going to make the cut here, what am I looking for? Yeah, composters. As for what is going to make the cut here, there is some items which we're going to have a lot of, but we don't necessarily need full shulker boxes. We need something in between, which is probably going to be like 2 or 3 double chests worth of items. So that is going to be things like the colors of wool, things like soul soil, soul sand, the frog lights, calcite, bricks. You know, we're not going to have like full shulker boxes full of bricks, but we might have 2 double chests worth. So yeah, there's quite a lot of these. So as for these, we're going to handle them a different way. Why not overcomplicate this even further? And plus, it gives us a reason to build on this side. So yeah, I guess the items are going to have to go from input chest to this mix loader, which is going to be the most accessible. This is where we can access the majority of the items, and then it will go into probably this side first, and then hit the box loaders. This will be its final destination, and then we'll stick overflow chests probably in this area. Yeah, like I said, sometimes you have to get started on a project before you realize what you're missing, and there was a lot of things I didn't consider when I first started this. And like I mentioned, none of this is pre-planned, so honestly though, I think it's more fun that way. So yeah, let me continue building. Maybe I'll start to put an aesthetic on this. We'll see. That I don't really have figured out. I did try to go for an interesting shape here. I didn't want to make it circular because that would really increase the amount of hoppers. And it's already at like 700 or so. It's going to be crazy. Plus we need to connect the 2 sides together, which is going to be even more hoppers. Honestly though, it may be a better option to use the droppers and water streams like what we have here and just redirect it over that way to get it the long distance, rather than running a big hopper chain all the way down and then all the way back again. Oh hey, that zombie is still here in the nether. I'm like close to our slime portal. He's still here from episode 1. He must have like tracked me all the way back here. I don't really want to kill him, but I don't know. I don't know what we're gonna do with him. Yeah, I'm just here in the nether since I talked about lighting in a previous episode being very important for a build. Same with sightlines, and that is no different here for our new storage room. So I was just here trying to get a Crimson Forest, is that what the biome's called, for the shroom lights. I only managed to find 2 trees which have yielded 9 shroom lights. It's like the tiniest little biome next to our portal. And that's all I could find, so... Oh, this is the witch hut way. Wait. Am I like all spun around here? I don't know where I am exactly, but I think pretty soon we're going to look at nether traversal and maybe start on a very primitive nether hub just to have some sort of way to get around the world easier. Yeah, that's the tiny little biome that I found over there. It's like 2 trees worth, which is like nothing. I think our portal is down here though. Yes, it is. I was also just trying to gather together all the shulker boxes we have to our name right now. So I found right around 2 stacks of shulker shells in the shulker box that we brought back from the end in episode 2. And so that is basically all the shulker boxes we have, besides the ones that are out. I mean, a lot of these can be emptied now, especially the full shulker boxes. But yeah, that is going to be needed to start to fill the system and actually use it. So I'm going to have to go back to the end. However, as you can see, the build is still unfinished, like pretty much everything in this cave. But I think you can kind of see the direction we're going in here. Obviously, there's not going to be dirt and gravel in front of these things. That this is where the shulker boxes are supposed to be, as we saw in the creative test world, right? This is where the interface is going to be. So it's going to be 3 shulker boxes up here, which will, wait, this one doesn't need to be full. It's going to be like that. And then what I was thinking was we use the top slot as a way to determine which item is stored in each slice, because it's going to be full boxes, right? We don't need to use item frames here. And I was thinking about putting the shroom light down here just to give us some lighting on the chests, and then maybe some mangrove wood on the side. Maybe we do some stripped mangrove on the back here just for some extra texture. Yeah, I kind of like that. That's not too bad. Maybe since this is like a yellowish or orangey sort of light, we use jungle wood trapdoors. How does that look? Because those are kind of like see-through, or they have a hole in the middle. And it's, yeah, I like that a lot actually. I do like that. Yeah, we have the mangrove logs as like a border here, and then we have oak wood on the floor, planks, and this, believe it or not, is the beehives. So we've made good use of our honeycombs so far. Pretty worthwhile to have a nice looking floor to craft all these beehives here. And then yeah, we've kept the sandstone. We also have our copper on the ceiling as a border. I might add more copper here. Well, maybe not. It's relatively balanced actually now that I see it. But then we also have note blocks and composters in the ceiling. I don't know what I was thinking. I just wanted some like sort of unique texture up there, and then the copper bulbs as lighting. Maybe copper bulbs would work better than the shroom lights, since we don't have access to a ton of these. Although I think our tree farm can farm the nether trees. I haven't tried that out yet, but I'm pretty sure it can. Also, there is another feature here which I'm not so sure about at the moment. As you can see behind me, on the very right hand side on the pillar is dark oak, then it goes to spruce, and then behind me now is oak, and then birch, and then back to oak, and then to spruce, and then to dark oak. So it kind of like is this gradient of wood, and it gets darker on the outsides and lighter on the insides, which was just something I tried on a whim, and I kind of like it. I don't know, it's kind of quirky and weird and Von Sway, but that was our objective, right? That's exactly our design brief here. So I think it kind of works. I'm going to keep that around. We just need to try and figure out how we connect these 2 areas, and then also connect the items, right, from overflow. So I want to take a break from building and decide on how we should route the items. I'm looking for any more glass. I think there isn't much of it left since I used it all for the glass bottles, but we should have at least a box of sand left. Yes, we do. Let's get all this smelted. This shulker box was full as well, and I think there was an extra 2 boxes that I smelted, so I gathered a lot of sand, and it's all used for various different things. Let's get the minecarts on. Is there enough fuel in here? I think there should be. We're still using the lava buckets from down here in the basement. I showed it briefly in episode 1, but we have a little dripstone farm down here, which I've just been using to smelt everything. So those go in this one here. And this is another thing I want to build, is a massive multi-smelter, a massive blast furnace somewhere. I think also I've decided that we want to go for the dropper method instead of sending a big hopper chain from one side of the storage room to the other. What is the easiest way to do that? I think maybe just going straight across. It's right there we have to connect to, that hopper we're looking at. So let's have this dropper instead point upwards, and that way we can redirect the water stream to this side. We're going to have to power this dropper though, so we might have to remove this redstone torch because there's going to be water on top of this. So maybe we do an observer here to read the clock, and then we don't need this torch. That should power the dropper, right? Anytime. Yeah, that should work. We'll run compressed ice over the top of these droppers. They are going to be input limited because remember we pulse the input dropper 4 times to limit the speed of the items through the first sorting system, which isn't necessary for this system. We can just run it at hopper speed. And is this going to line up in terms of the Y levels? I hope so. Okay, so we do water here. It's going to flow 8 blocks, and then we can do, I guess, a pressure plate should work since they're going over ice. It's been so long since I've set up water streams properly in this game. Or like a decent amount of water streams. And when you're doing water in Redstone, and it makes me nervous all the time. It's like wiring in GregTech. When you're doing transformers and stuff, it makes you so nervous. And this does as well. Like, we could have a disaster on our hands. But I think we're okay. We got all the glass in place. And the last one here isn't going to quite work out, so I'm going to cut it a little short and place the next water source here. And then we'll do maybe a sign on the glass. And that should get us to the end. Awesome, and straight into the hopper. Let's also put a cover on this so we don't end up with any items we don't want in the system. Although it shouldn't really matter. I'm still going to cover it though. Just as a quick sanity check, let's make sure that observer does work. We'll throw in some hoppers here. And they should make their way up to... Oh, that also turned on the clock. Yes, the top dropper is pulsing every time the clock activates because of the observer. And yeah, that activated this pulse extender, turning on the clock. It shouldn't break anything though. It should be robust enough. Let's see. Oh yeah, nice. The items did make it in the shulker box. That's what we want. So let's do a thorough test on this. I'm going to disconnect the hopper. We'll break this hopper just so it doesn't go all the way around the storage room. We have it looping around here, which needs more composters over the top, but it just loops around and then goes back this way. So after it gets to the end, this is now our overflow barrel for the moment. It's going to have to cross again this storage room to go to this side, at least with our current plan. And then it's going to have to go to overflow. Or no, wait, we said we were going to do it on the left-hand side first of all, right? After the first mixed shulker. But that isn't built yet, so we'll leave it this way and then we'll change it later on. Also, I think I'm going to switch to using iron bars as our filter item. It's a very easy block to come across, or easy item to get our hands on. And we can essentially throw them away into filters. So I'm going to call this filter. Not like that. Filter. I think the blocker items go in these hoppers pointing towards the competitors, right? So we put our filter here, and let's say the first slice is going to be for stone. All right, we need a... Man, I've fallen off of that so many times. We need one item in these droppers down here. Now the hopper is properly locked, and we can set our filter. Let's say the first one is going to be stone, and the other two, which are connected, we're just going to do that for the moment. Okay, let's give the dispenser some empty shulker boxes, and I'm not sure how we activate this to begin with. Do we need to manually place the boxes? This is the problem with copying a design when you don't fully understand it, is why I'm not a huge fan of using schematics, to be honest. I do really like to make sure I understand a system fully, which is what I'm trying to wrap my head around now. Even though I saw it in creative, it's a little different when you actually have it built in front of you here, and it's all placed by hand. So we have our shulker boxes placed here. Let's give the dispenser an empty one. And let's also just simulate that these shulker boxes in the front are full. So we can do that by breaking the hopper up here, so that it should now fill the barrel. And now we can even throw in a full box of stone, and it should hit our shulker unloader. This should be robust enough. I hope I didn't break it earlier on by putting items in the dropper down there, but I don't think so. Yes, our shulker box got placed again. All the stone should be offloaded, and there's no other shulker box. It can't go to overflow anymore because we've rerouted it. So we should see it appear in this dropper up here. It's going to take some time because the system is kind of slow, but that's the trade-off we've... Wow. Wow, I hope that wasn't a bad sign. That was so loud. Yeah, it's like the trade-off we've made here between speed and some other conveniences. Nice. It is working properly. The copper bulbs are illuminating. Yeah, we should see our items flow up here, and we'll make sure they reach the shulker box and that it does actually place there. Honestly, we should have tossed in a couple more stacks than a full box of stone, just to make sure that the shulker box here fills up and then it replaces it, right? So when that fills up, the fresh one should be placed, and we should end up with a full box here in this chest, which we're going to mark here with a block of stone. And that thunderstorm, my goodness. And yeah, this is going to be our stone slice, and then we have to go through and set the filters for all of them. Yeah, so for the moment it's going to be stone, cobblestone, stone brick. I had to think about that block there for a second. Gravel, tough, cobbled deep slate. It's pretty much the same order we've seen in creative. Regular deep slate, basalt, blackstone, which I don't have. The other 3 overworld stones, sand, sandstone, endstone, netherrack, nether brick, and I'm thinking skulk in this area, which I also don't have any of right now. And then that leaves this whole wall free for future expansion for any other materials we might want in full shulker boxes in this room. I'm really hoping this does actually work as well. It should though. It should work. I don't see any reason why this wouldn't work. Oh, and speaking of, it did actually work. Nice. Nice, and we got our full box of stone out here. Which, of course, will only happen when these 3 are full, but that's exactly what we were looking for. Well, I didn't realize how long this episode was getting, so I just decided to do some building here. So I added this sort of access tunnel to the redstone. I may or may not come back later on and clean up the walls here, but it kind of depends on the finished redstone, because there's still some extra... I realized we don't have unstackable sorting. Things like for tools and stuff, those are not handled very well in the system that we currently have. And then, as we kind of talked about, there's also going to be something on this side, which I do have plans for, but it's something we'll look at in a future episode. So yeah, we have this little access tunnel which leads underground. So I introduced the bricks here, which I think works quite well with the acacia, and this is orange terracotta, I believe. So this way it currently leads nowhere yet, but up here, I mean, I don't know. You guys can let me know what you think about this, but I kind of like it. There's just like a crazy mix of random stuff here. Our Von Sway staircase is finished, so I added some details to this. And yeah, there's some extra vegetation, some dripstone, a little border of acacia. Nothing fancy, but I think it kind of works, right? It gets us from point A to point B. And yeah, we can get a good view of the new storage room from this view. I was considering like blocking it up, but I want to keep it quite open in this space. I also want to try to do something about the ceiling here, but again, I'm not sure exactly what to do here, so I'm just going to leave it for the moment. But yeah, I think it kind of works overall. We got more of the brick and the acacia and the orange terracotta, and then it transitions up into sandstone, and then with a little copper roof on the top here. So yeah, I think it kind of works. I do like this mangrove wood and the mangrove border at the bottom, more beehives. Yeah, I think it's looking not too bad, and this connects us up to the area we've seen before, up to our mixed shulker storage. And then, yeah, just added some extra lighting up on the storage room. I got this back wall here, which I wasn't really sure what to do with, so it's kind of like a nether theme. This is cherry wood, and then we've got like, yeah, some crimson stuff in the back. Some more stripped cherry and more shroom lights. I did manage to find some more shroom lights, or farm some more of those trees. But yeah, overall, not too bad. I really like the direction this whole cave is taking. It's just going to take forever to finish it. I don't know if it's ever going to get finished, to be honest. It's going to be like, man, this is just a huge project I've taken on here. Like, there's so much to connect, but it's all starting to come together slowly. Slowly but surely. Yeah, I do like what we've built so far. However, that is going to wrap up this episode. We have, well, I'll leave it up to your imagination as to where we are right now. This is a little sneak preview for next episode, which I'm really excited about. It's a really awesome idea. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next episode on 3 Plays Minecraft.